When I was 5 years old, I lived right across the street from a park, Tonopah Park. Had an Old West theme, complete with a bank, jail, and a saloon. It's where I learned to ride a bike, a blue adult-sized beach cruiser. I had to stand on the bench to get on it, and I could only ride standing, but that didn't bother me. I have a scar here to the left of my right eye that connects me with this park forever. It also serves as a reminder of how I spent my childhood afraid of dogs. This dog was only trying to be friendly, but he looked at me, and that was enough for my brain to say, go. I turned and started to run, only to be caught by the tail end of a lion-shaped swing on full rotation back. My vision was bloody, but I remember being cradled by this man as he carried me across the street to my apartment and knocked till my mother answered. You can imagine how frantically she reacted as she searched for answers of why her son was in a Hispanic man's arms with his face covered in blood, with one of his eyes out of its socket, as she recalls it. It's the only time I've ever rode in an ambulance, the only time I've had stitches. But there's one more memory about this park that hadn't escaped me. Well, there were many days spent flying kites and tossing frisbees or running tirelessly in a game of tag or hide and seek or trying to keep our candy cigarettes from falling out of our mouths while we were shooting our cap guns during cops and robbers. There were other days where a straw was the only thing that we were concerned with. We'd take a bullet, stick it in the straw head first, throw it in the air, then cover our ears. I couldn't tell you where we got the bullets, but they always seemed to be available. Now that I think about it, I wonder if my older brother was one of the sources. I mean, after all, I knew there were a bunch of weapons under my mother's bed. He must have known too. My mother's boyfriend, who would later become our stepfather, was a blood. Northtown, Holly Hood's man. Tonopah Park was rolling 60 Crip turf. He was very aware of this geographical location, which was evident every time he went to the popsicle truck, as he and a firearm of his choice would be there to make a selection to satisfy a sweet tooth. My selection? More caps from our cap gun. More candy cigarettes. And I'll take a straw if you have one. At the same age, I would spend a lot of time across the street in the Casa Rosas, another housing projects. I'd always be in the courtyard because that's where all the action was, but sometimes I'd be at the park between Casa Rosas and Rose Gardens because they had a merry-go-round there. Plus, I used to always like to watch the drill team practice at night. This particular day, I was playing at the small playground in the small part of Casa Rosa. There was a little parking lot there, had about 5 or 6 spaces for cars, and a lot of guys would hang out there and drink in that parking lot. Me and my friend Donald left that park and walked home. A walk of no more than 5 minutes. I still remember the look of part relief but much more concern on my TT Pam's face when she seen us and hurried us into the house. That park had just gotten sprayed up. It was said that 5 people were killed. I've seen a lot over my childhood years, man. When I was 7, a car pulled up across from a vacant lot that was adjacent to my apartment building. A man stuck his hand out the window and began firing. Minutes later, I seen a black man run into the abandoned building across from my apartment building. He was followed in there by a Hispanic man. I heard shots. The Hispanic man came out running. I never seen the black man exit. There are too many personal incidents for me to cite while also being considerate of your time, so I'll leave it there. I say all of this to say that as far back as my memory goes, there has been no shortage of incidents that I have witnessed involving guns both on a personal and national scale. From Waco to North Hollywood to Columbine to Virginia Tech to here in Vegas to Buffalo to the most recent incident in Philadelphia, gun violence has plagued communities across this country. Every election cycle, we witness the left rally support through gun control laws, while the right rally support through fear of losing gun rights. It's the only tug-of-war game that I've ever seen where the rope has never moved. The participants are constantly rotated like a line shift in hockey, go Knights. But the rope has never moved because neither side has ever picked it up. There are too many guns in this nation for there to ever be gun control, and every one of us knows this. Create laws banning certain types of weapons, you're also creating a black market for the sale of same weapons. Tougher background checks are only keeping existing black markets alive. I know many of you will not agree, and that's fine. But it's my opinion that it's not the amount of guns, but rather the disparity between where guns are allowed or not, and who can legally carry them that creates hotbed environments for these type of incidents to happen. It's my position that federal law should be reformed to allow every adult to carry however they choose, openly or concealed, and that business owners should adopt policies stating the same. It's my belief that having more armed citizens out and about will minimize the amount of mass incidents that occur. It's common sense to me, but we know it'll never happen. If we're being honest, laws against carrying are of the same spirit as laws against marijuana. They only exist to keep certain people penalized. The government has benefited tremendously off this. Talking about deals better than Black Friday. 2, 3, 4, 5 plus black faces eliminated for every incident. Every time a brother is murdered by another brother, that's 2 brothers off the street. 3 brothers on a corner shot by 1 brother in a car with 3 other brothers in it, that's 7 brothers off the street. Simple math, niggonometry. The government can't reform these laws because there will be far less probable cause, meaning far less felonies, less felons, and a lot more black men that are able to compete in job markets. and provide for their families instead of being caught in the system. But we know they have to keep prisons populated somehow. These hotels need bed sheets. Furthermore, when a brother's hit with a felony, it takes away his legal right to bear arms. So when another brother rolls up on him on some past beef, and he gets to drop first, it's not even self-defense. Nah, they're both criminals in the eyes of the court. Years ago, I was arrested on a weapons charge. And an officer, after seeing my red flag on my Cadillac door, took a picture of me for the gang book. Me being young and ignorant, I could care less. I wasn't aware that that picture would also take away my right to defend myself. Any incident going forward will be chalked up as gang violence, and I would end up right where the state wants me and every other black man, dead or locked up performing cheap labor. In the streets, there's been a saying that's lived on forever. I'd rather be caught with than caught without. Both have severe consequences for us. In the inner city, there's been a negative stereotype labeling a person with a gun as a bad guy if he didn't have a badge or uniform. This sentiment has also been expressed through film. It's the reason why there's less concern for the victim of a police shooting if he or she was armed. It's the reason why that detail is always made public. No one ever brings to light whether or not it was against the law for that person to actually be armed. I could have shared the same fate as Philando Castile in 2006 when I was pulled over and I reached in the glove box for my vehicle's paperwork. The female officer saw a loaded magazine, and so she got nervous and drew down. There was no gun in the vehicle, and had it been sitting on my lap, it still would have been lawful. Police, even with more training than others, are still visibly shaken by the sight of black men. I believe prior military experience, or at least a verifiable background of playing contact sports, should be a prerequisite for joining the force. There has to be something tough about a police officer. They shouldn't be frightened by the mere presence of another human. There is no stereotypes for the boonies. You go out to the rural areas of your state, you're going to see sidearms openly displayed, shotguns visible from the back of the truck window, and rifles stowed comfortably on shoulders as people nod good morning. You'll see a sheriff that's not concerned with, and more importantly, not shaken by the sight of a Smith & Wesson holstered on the hip of a random citizen. You'll see a safe and very respectful community. Safe because they all take part in keeping it that way. You've rarely ever seen a bully pick on someone their size. That's because there's an appropriate fear that comes along with matching up well against someone. You have to be really sure of yourself, and most people aren't. This is also why you've never seen a mass shooting incident at a police station, a gun range, or a gun show. There's too many other bullies present. The sign with the firearm that has a circle around it and a slash through it does not represent a safe environment. It represents a place of vulnerability. A no weapons allowed sign reads, "This is the perfect place for someone wanting to cause harm to many." Many of these incidents happened at places we expected to be the most safe, places we let our guards down. We can no longer send our kids to school, go to the movies, or to the grocery store worry-free. We can't leave our home and just hope nothing happens. We have to be vigilant. Our schools need to be protected, not by one school resource officer, but by every staff member who is qualified and chooses to carry. Our grocery stores shouldn't depend on a security guard for the safety of its patrons. The patrons themselves should provide their own security. Every adult in the streets should be able to walk out and about with their protection visible for others to see. Not only because it serves as a deterrent, but because every adult should have the ability to protect themselves. While there is nothing we can do to stop a person from raining down hell on concert goers below, and some may still choose to put on body armor and go about their plans expecting opposition, the very least we can do is give ourselves a chance by being equipped and letting them know it's not going to come easy. Now, some may argue that there's going to be more individual incidents, and you're right. I can't argue that it's certainly a possibility. But I don't think we have to speculate the outcome of what would have happened in that Indiana mall if Elijah Dickin didn't ignore the sign telling him his firearm was not welcome. It would have truly been a horrible scene. It's a clear example of how having more guns in the hands of the abled works to our benefit. America just has to get past its fear of black men.